Hey everyone, I'm Tony Ramirez, the founder of Leka.io. In this video, I'm going to give you an example of a simple email management system I set up using AI agents. And then I'll show you how I built something similar using your traditional workflow tools. Then we can talk about the pros and cons and see if there's a way we can combine them. So let's start with the Agentic system first. So I'm going to go to my projects. We'll go to Tony's email management project. And in here we have 6 agents and we have 1 workflow. Let's look at the workflow first. All the workflow does, just like any traditional workflow tool, it has some sort of trigger and then it executes a series of steps. The trigger here is it listens and checks if I get a new email to this email, admin@leka.io. And once I receive the email, it's going to send the output of that to this agent. I selected my general email manager agent, and then I literally just dumped the entire output into the agent as the message. And that's it. That's all it is. Now let's look at what the general email manager agent has, what tools it has access to, and its instructions. In our platform, every agent has access to 4 types of tools: knowledge, actions, sub-agents, and workflows. So let's go to the configure page, and we can kind of look at how this agent's configured. We have some instructions. So I tell this general email manager agent, which basically is like the parent of all the sub-agents, how it should handle the email that comes in. So I say, you'll be given an email, and using the email provider, you'll decide which sub-agent you should forward the email content and message ID to. Then I tell it 3 things. If it's successful, send me a Slack. If the sub-agent determines that it should have not gone to them, use the new information that they give you to send it to the correct sub-agent. And the third one is, if there's any errors, send them to me. That way I can fix the instructions, fix the prompts. Maybe I forgot to give it a tool it needs to get certain data, right? And then I just provided the Tony Ramirez Slack ID. That way it doesn't have to go fetch it. And I'll show you different ways it could go fetch this data if I didn't provide it here. Okay, then I give it access to some knowledge. Knowledge in our platform is just a place where you can add custom data. You can upload data. You can create as many notebooks as you like. These are called knowledge notebooks. And you can create notebooks at a workspace level, which means that any agent across the whole workspace can have access to this notebook if you enable it. Or you can create notebooks at a project level, which means that only agents or workflows within the project can get access to any knowledge within that notebook. And that's very important in case there's any sensitive data that only people with certain accesses, certain permissions can or should have access to. So let me just show you really quick. I have this email management data notebook I created, and all that's in there, all I did was I did add data, enter text, I added this Gmail labels name, and then I just pasted a list of all of my Gmail labels and their IDs. And that's all it is. Now, let's say your company wants to do something similar, but you guys have like PDFs and a bunch of documents. You can upload files, and the files are really big. We support chunking, and you can customize the size that the data gets chunked in and the chunk overlap. And if you don't know what this means, you don't even have to worry about it. Let's go back to the agent. So the agent has access to those Gmail labels through this knowledge. Then let's go to the connections tab. This agent also has access to my Gmail integration and my Slack integration. And you'll see this Gmail integration has this project under it. That's the same. It's the same thing as with knowledge. You can create integrations at a project level or at a workspace level. So in this case, only agents and workflows within this Tony's email management project have access to this connection. But then this Slack integration is at a workspace level because it's not assigned to a project, which means that anybody can use this Slack integration who's within our workspace. It's really nice. So you don't have to re-add common connections, but you can also restrict certain sensitive integrations to just projects with more sensitive data. And since I have Gmail and Slack enabled through connections, the actions I can give my agent are the Gmail and Slack actions. In this case, I just added the label email and the send message to user actions. I have no workflows that it can execute, but it does have sub-agents. So these are the 5 sub-agents that this agent can message. So this agent might not, you could think of it like just someone who just receives data and decides who to forward it to, and it just sends it. And then those minions have all the tools they need to execute whatever they need to do. That's basically what this is. The parent, this general email manager, technically doesn't know what the subagents are going to do. He's just told, send it to them, right? In my case, each of these just label the email with their category type, which isn't that impressive, but you get the point. And these subagents can have their own subagents, so on and so forth. So let's now look at one of the subagents. Let's go to the urgent email manager. This guy just has access to the same notebook because he needs access to the Gmail labels. And then he has access to label an email. If we look at the instructions I gave it, you will receive an email that appears to be urgent. If it is urgent, you'll label the email. And if you're unable to label it, explain why you couldn't. And if it doesn't appear to be an urgent email, respond with why. This is the thing about agentic systems. The path goes down and it goes back up. So the parent sends a message to the minion, to the subagent, then they send it to theirs, and they can send data back up. Like, hey, I actually need some more data. And then the parent can send it back down until it works, right? Whereas with workflows, and we'll talk about this, but with workflows, it just goes one way and never comes back. So this is basically what all the subagents are. They're all just the same instructions, but like this is the trash one, and it does like trash, spam, scams, whatever. So let's go back over here and let's see what happens when an email actually comes through. I'm not going to do it right now, but I already have one that came through and I was testing a little earlier. So I have this spam email I got a few days ago, and I've just been using it for testing. But the workflow, managed emails with AI workflow, got triggered, and it sent the data to the general email manager agent. And this guy determined, oh, the content of this email seems like it's kind of marketing material. So it sends it to the email marketer manager. And we can view the task. So now in here, excuse me, you'll see it got triggered by the general email manager, and the email marketing manager determines, yes, it is marketing. So I'm going to label it. So then it labels it, and then it sends a successfully labeled AI email marketing response, which then gets sent back to the general email manager at this point, and we can view the details. This is more for debugging, but if we look at the output, we can see that it received, the email has been successfully labeled as a response. So it'll take that, and then it's like, okay, since it was successful, let me send a Slack to Tony, letting me know it was good. And then it just sends a final, has a final output of its task has been accomplished, right? So that's the agentic system. And that's how you can debug, and you can kind of see the flow. You can keep clicking view task and go in and in and in. Eventually it'd be nice to have like a really UI, like a graphical way of viewing it. But for now, this is how we have it set up. Okay, now let's look at, look at the workflow that we set up. So not this workflow. Let me go to all my workflows, and I have this one that's inactive. And this is essentially a workflow representation of what I built using the agentic system, or the representation of the agentic system, but as a workflow. So we receive the trigger, we summarize the email, which is used for the end for the Slack summary when we kind of summarize what happened. Then we use this decide with AI step, which let me open this guy up. And this one is decide with AI comes with our platform. So you just have to select the model, and then we tell it make a decision based on the email content. So I say urgent is if the email requires immediate attention, and then I explain all the other options. And then I say these are the options, which means the AI has to respond with just these options. And then if the response was trash, we'll take this trash path. If it was receipt, it will take the receipt path, so on and so forth. So we'll see, then we'll have to we'll have to make this action, connect the integration, pass in the message ID, and label it with trash. Then we want to send a summary, the Slack connection, send the message, send the summary of the email. And we have to do that for each step, which I'm not saying it's faster because you'd have to create an agent for each step, but it's just a lot of repetitiveness, right? But there's just a lot of repetitiveness. So let's think about the pros and cons here. AI agents are a lot more autonomous. They just have their instructions instead of tools, and they decide what they do. Right? The example I gave wasn't very good when talking about the example I gave wasn't very good because with emails and labeling, that's a very straightforward task. I'm telling you, your only purpose is to label. If their only purpose is to do one thing, it makes way more sense to build a workflow because it's really easy to add one thing. Whereas if you give like with an employee, you say you are over all of this and these are all the tools you have, just be smart and use the tools. Like if that's what you're trying to build, an AI system makes way more sense. But in the example I gave with the emails, since it's just straightforward, like you label, I think this makes way more sense. And this will be right a lot more of the time because we're eliminating AI steps, right? AI we all know it can hallucinate, it can add its own inputs that might be incorrect. So you have to really, really tailor the prompt. So if there's a client paying me to automate this for them, I would probably go this workflow path, like this traditional workflow path, because if they need it to work tomorrow, it's really easy to just test this one AI step or these two AI steps. This one doesn't really matter, it's just summarizing, but this one, the decision maker. Whereas the other one, there's so many AI steps, it takes a lot more time to refine the prompts and get them right. But okay, now let's talk about combining them. Okay, so let's say the part that it always gets wrong is deciding who it should go to, right? And what we could do is we could get rid of everything down here. So I could get rid of this whole conditional paths, and I could instead right here insert I can message my agent directly right here, my general email manager. And I can say it's already been decided. The email type is, and then I can just put the response of the decide with AI. And I can say the email content is, and we go to the email received and we just put in like the text. And the message ID, email ID is, and then we pass in the message ID. So we could entirely eliminate a step that the general email manager has to decide. So if like I save this and we go back to the general email manager and the configure, we say you'll be given an email. We could change this to like you don't have to decide who to forward it to. Like it's already been decided. Here's the type. You do the rest. Or if we go back to our workflow, we could even eliminate the general email manager entirely because since we already know who it should go to, we could just we could directly add the trash guy right here. So like we could add it, or I guess, sorry, not right there. We could eliminate this and we can get rid of these guys. And I can say, if it's trash, directly message my trash manager. And this guy can handle the rest, right? So there's a way we could combine both of these. And I'm still not sure what the best way to do, or I'm still not sure how to do that in like the best way. So if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear them. If you're currently experimenting with like different tools for AI agent systems, totally reach out to me. Let's connect because I want to figure out how people are building these, because I think as a platform, we want to know the best way to build them so that we can give our users the best features so they can build them better. So anyways, I hope you appreciated the video. I'm open to feedback. If you're interested in using our platform, it is currently in beta. It's behind a beta code, so message me and I can get you the code so you can start using and playing around with it. Thank you.